Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is actually pulled from a live call that we do every Monday at 6 o'clock. If you'd like to join us live on Zoom, the link is in the description below. Q4 is here. It is upon us. Tonight, I'm just going to go over, me and Nathaniel are going to go over a lot of the questions that we've been getting. I want to dive in a little bit deeper, more than just trying to answer people through messaging or post. What I'd really like these Monday calls to be are like open conversations. I think me and Nathaniel might be driving the conversation, but I want to hear more people's feedback. I think collectively, I'd like to figure out what is working best, and then just what everybody is trying to accomplish, be able to do it communally.
So, hello everybody. Hi. Welcome to this Wingman Weekly show. We are doing for you guys tonight. My name is Nate Hibbert. This is my brother Stephen Hibbert. Together we are Wingman, and we've created the Wingman University to be a hub of information. And this is our goal for this month and moving forward, is to bring a bunch of people from different communities together. And like he said, just have open conversation about things going on. We're mostly focused on print on demand, as we have been for like the last 2 years, and probably will be for the next little bit here moving forward. But we just think it's a good thing to have, all of us just thinking about print on demand and all the lessons that we're learning and tips and tricks that we have. We're trying to share from our perspective, but we know that we don't know everything. So that's why we said we'd like to have these open conversations where we're watching chat both here on Zoom and then on Facebook, to make sure that we're connecting with you guys and just get to move the conversation forward of what can you do with print on demand.
Yeah, I think the biggest question I get kind of boils down to like, what should I be focusing on? It's a little difficult for me to answer that because of the amount of groups that we're in, but my kind of go-to answer is if you are having success doing something, stick with that. Q4 already gets hectic. It's the biggest selling time of the year. If you're doing OA, RA, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, pretty much a reselling, or doing wholesale or private label, I would stick with that. Like, I wouldn't be trying to add additional things in on the Q4, especially if this is maybe your first or second Q4, just because of things get very hectic. Things ramp up, especially going into Black Friday and getting closer to Thanksgiving. Even Halloween is a very extremely fast-paced selling season. So I wouldn't try to add too much onto your plate. Now, if you're seasoned and you go, I have a team in place, we got things going on, I'm looking to add an additional thing to my business, then I think POD is an amazing thing to add to your business because it doesn't take a lot of additional capital. And if you have this team, I was going to say squad, if you have the team to back up or handle a lot of the research, the actual product creation is pretty quick. Unlike buying things from a store where you have to either prep them or at least get them in a box and send them out, with print on demand, you just come up with the ideas and then create the listings. It's just creating the art, which takes little to no time compared to going out shopping, getting the stuff in, driving the cars, fighting with the traffic. And I think if you're starting off, POD is, I think, the best place to start because there is no upfront capital and it doesn't feel like you're trying to rush around and compete with thousands of people doing very similar things where you could misunderstand what you're looking at and then get yourself into a lot of trouble. Like I've seen people do. That's why during Q4, I always suggest like follow people that have been doing it for a long time and can advise you on that. I never felt comfortable because if I said, hey, these are the things that you're looking for, but you have to like think ahead because the competition might see it and then you might get flooded out. You want to distance yourself from the competition. It was just a lot to take in for newer people. So as far as what you should focus on and what should be your main concern, if you have something that's working, stick to that. If you're looking to add something, I think POD is an amazing place to start. If you're going that route, KDP or merch, I think is kind of the go-to because
Merch by Amazon.
Merch by Amazon, there is no upfront cost with either of those, and you get to tap into Amazon's organic traffic.
Yeah, if you are going to focus on print on demand and you're still wondering like what exactly as far as like niches or research like should you be doing to help find sales, we definitely suggest, oh again speaking from my perspective, I suggest you guys go after some of those holidays. And one way that we found very successful to do that is not necessarily just make a generic Christmas shirt, but maybe making something that is related to a topic that you have knowledge of, or if you've been selling for a while, that you actually have sales with. So, say you're in, we've talked about the biking niche. That was like one of the first ones that I really got into. If I was still making biking shirts, I can make a biking shirt and relate it to Christmas somehow and kind of smash those two together. That way, I'm taking from a customer base that I already know exists and just doing something that's coming up that's going to be trendy, which we know are going to be these holidays. And so we've suggested that to a few people on our 20-minute one-on-one calls that we've been doing, and seeing like just those moments of aha light bulbs going off is exciting. And just like, oh yeah, we should just remind people that that's always a very powerful thing to do, is if you have a customer base that you know pretty well, that you can target, that maybe you've had a few sales in, targeting them with trendy things or holiday events that are coming up is a good way to kind of boost some of your sales and to see a little spike in sales, especially going into Q4. So that's something you can think about if you're in the if you're in the print on demand space already. Focusing your efforts, not just making generic Christmas shirts, but making them specific for a niche or customer base that you already have some knowledge of or some sales with.
Yeah, and I guess that going back to our foundation, discover, understand, serve, I think in any reselling or any selling in Q4, if you have a customer base, gearing a lot of your products towards the Christmas season or Halloween or whatever the season is coming up, that's a good way to start branching outside of just your core audience and getting more customers, and then hopefully being able to capture them through emails or anything else and being able to continue on having them as customers throughout the next year.
Yeah.
That
So
next question is, oh, sorry, I don't know if you want to go on or not.
Yeah, I was gonna say I talked about the coaching calls a little bit, and so some of what we're gonna be talking about tonight is questions that we've had from those calls and that we've just kind of seen in general. And so I pulled one of them, one that I thought was a good question to ask here on this Monday show. And as I'm asking this question, we'll kind of go back to our old format: is if you guys have questions that you want answered live, you can post them in the comments. If we get a chance to read them and answer them, we will. Or you can post them in the group. We're going to check both of those chats. But this is a question asked by Karen, and I just thought it was something good for me and Stephen to kind of think out loud here. I have somewhat of a written answer, but I do want to see Stephen's perspective on this question of, she asked, like, when she sits down to do print on demand, like, what can she be expecting to do? And so we kind of preach like have a system, but we don't necessarily talk about like what that looks like maybe. And it's hard to do like a generic thing. Like it's much easier when we're doing these one-on-one calls to just be like, okay, like what do you enjoy? What are the things that come naturally to you? And kind of work with the person to figure that out. But Stephen, if you had to give some generic advice to people who, when they sit down and they're like, okay, I've set apart this time to do print on demand, what's like a strategy that they can try so it doesn't seem overwhelming every time they sit down to do print on demand? Like, okay, now I've either got to start all the way from the beginning again, or I've got to kind of like pick up and I don't quite remember what I was doing. Maybe what's a way that they can kind of start making a system for themselves that when they sit down, they can just be focused and go right to work?
Yeah, I guess it really depends on how you want to structure your days and your weeks. But how we like to teach is showing you our process and then helping you build your system from that. I know that might sound a little abstract right now. We were working in a working with teachers to help me teach better to kind of get that concept clarified. But ultimately, we want to show you kind of how we got to this point. And then I know you're not going to be able to do exactly what me and Nathaniel are doing because I've been selling online for 15 years. He's been doing art for 15 years. We have a lot of experiences that we can lean on, but we do want to help speed up the time of learning and finding success. Small wins is what I'm always trying to get people to latch onto now. So wherever you feel like you're putting your effort in and can see some success, I would do that and almost start with that. Even though it might be very counterintuitive to what we've been saying in the past, I'm just finding that that seems to help people more now, especially doing a lot more of these one-on-one calls, it's like, okay, well, what is the part of the business that you like to do? And how can you do that to the point where you go, I did this and I got this result. Now it'll motivate me to continue moving forward. Somebody that we were talking to was telling me about how people work out. If you work out for a month and you see you didn't lose any weight or whatever you're trying to do, it's very discouraging and it's very difficult to continue working out for the full year when you're not seeing that success. So what I'm trying to do is like shorten that time to see a win. I don't think it's possible to start any business and have success right out the gate. There are problems and stuff that you're going to run into and ways to problem solve, but focusing in on at least things that you enjoy and then making a goal for yourself and then accomplishing that goal, I think will help you go to the next level. So just like the gym, my friend was telling me, like, if you say I want to lose 10 pounds in a month, it's very difficult to do that. But if you say, hey, I'm gonna go to the gym every day for a week, at the end of the week you can say, hey, I went every day. That's a win for me. I'm gonna continue to go because I've set this out and I've reached my goal, even though it's a small goal and it's not the ultimate thing that I'm trying to do, but it gets me started. So that's what I would suggest. I don't know, I would have to see like what part of the business you like, but if you like doing keyword research, finding X amount of seed keywords and or landing zones, that's what I would suggest. And then once you kind of have that, then go, okay, now I've reached this goal, I've locked this in. Now let's create the art and then set a different goal for you. But at least now that you've gotten to that first hurdle, it, I think, will propel you to do the next step and then make a listing. That's why I said like our process is that find where the customers are at, gather the seed keywords, find where the customers are at and they're actually spending money, target that what we call landing zone, a place that we want our shirts to land. It's really just the results page. Your shirt doesn't, or your products don't only show up there, but that's where you want to start. So at least you can go, is this working, and have a gauge, collect more keywords, create the art, make the listing. Can you find the listing? Like that's our process. Now your system can change. You can start with the art. You can do anything. The more that we've helped people, we see that, oh, if they're really artists, it seems to be they can start with the art and gather keywords that way. For us, me and Athena, it didn't work out that way. He was asking for my help, and it was like, I couldn't even fathom starting with a piece of art and trying to pull keywords from it. It was just not how my brain was wired. So we have found starting with the keywords works best for us. I know we have some other questions asking about the process, so I don't want to go too deep into like what I would suggest on how to do
Yeah, I
that,
want
but
to add
definitely
my 2 cents on there too.
focus in on the wins. Try to set a goal for you that you feel like you can reach. Then once you reach that goal, like continue to set goals and make the process work for you. Getting listings up, I think, is the most important thing. Regardless if they're the best listings or the most optimized or whatever the case may be, getting listings up, especially in this Q4 season, you need the most lines in the water as possible as you can get. That's where you're going to have success. Making one perfect listing is not as good as making 100 decent listings that are at least up there. Because as many times as I swear a design is going to work or a listing is going to work and it doesn't, and stuff that I say, hey, this is never going to sell, and then it sells, I've given up trying to understand the customer fully. I just know, hey, if I do this and I'm testing this, then I'll better understand them from what they're purchasing. Yellow and purple, I was like, I'm not the color expert, but who is buying this? And people are buying that yellow and purple. But I guess like Lakers, that's their color. So I guess everybody's kind of different. But
Yeah, that's
the
a
yellow shirt with a purple design, I was like, this looks horrible, but it's outselling everything else. So what do I know?
Yeah, that was a conversation I actually had today on a call, and it's just that like art is so subjective. Like what people like is so unique that trying to like pinpoint something like, oh yeah, this is for sure going to be my best-selling design. I put so much time into this. It's almost always the opposite. It's almost always the one like, I'll throw it up there just to see if anything happens. And so usually that's the one that like takes off and starts selling like crazy. So just remember, you're not selling to yourself. If you think someone's already made a shirt that's like as high quality as possible, you can never compete with that. Just know that if you make a different variation of that shirt, if you take inspiration from them and put something else up there, there are still people out there that might think that your design that you made that you might not personally think is better is closer to what they would wear and what they're going to spend their money on. So it's still worth putting in the time to make those listings. Even if you don't think it's the most optimized thing in the world, it's okay. Put the time and the effort into that. Just build in that structure. But to go back to the question a little bit, I really like what you said there of just like having those goals every day. And my response to this person's question was kind of focus on, especially when you're first starting out, focus on one thing every day. So instead of trying to go from here's, an idea, we found the landing zone, we made the art and actually made the listing, instead of trying to do that all in one day, I think it's actually more powerful because at least the way my brain works, like it's easier for me to just focus on one thing and work on that one thing. So I can keep making those connections and keep seeing patterns. So having that goal, if you're going, okay, I want to find 10 landing zones today, and that's your goal. And when you hit that goal, you can like stop, or if you hit your 2 hours or however long your time limit is, then you can stop. I think that's a productive day. And then the next day you can work on, okay, now I want to make, designs. I want to make 10 designs, one for each of those landing zones. The next day, you go, okay, I want to make the listings. Like, I think just using your time to solely focus in on one thing instead of trying to do everything is a better way to learn, especially at the beginning. Again, if you're not, if you haven't done print on demand before, whether you're an amazing artist or really good at data, like you kind of need both of those things to work together. And I think it's hard to do like all in the same day, all within a couple of hours to see how that is streamlined. But I do think that is the most efficient way to work. So if you've been doing this for a while and maybe you've been doing it that way, maybe it's time to switch up and try doing everything just at one time. Maybe it's, you find the landing zone, you make that piece of artwork, you do your keyword research, and then you put the listing up. And you can just kind of streamline that system. That way, if you get interrupted by life or whatever happens, at least you have some listings up and you don't just have a ton of research done and no artwork. I think that's something me and Steven are both guilty of just doing the thing we like more than the other thing, which is why I think this relationship works. Like he can just do all the data stuff, I can do all the art stuff. But if you're by yourself, you don't have a little brother that you can boss around to do the artwork or whatever, then those listings aren't getting made. And that is, just, it's not helping anybody. You're not helping your customers get the products they want. And you're not helping yourself make an income that you want. So making sure those listings are actually going up is extremely important. So if that's the thing you hate, whatever you hate, make sure you're still doing that because it has to get done for those listings to be made. So just prioritizing your time. And I think having a goal is a very smart thing that I don't know if we've talked a ton about before. Just like, when you're doing this research, have some goal in mind, whatever you think is possible to actually get done, achieve that goal, and then be like, okay, today was a success. I can move on tomorrow. Even if you struggle with the art and it takes like 3 times as much time to do the artwork as it does the keywords, at least they're getting done. And again, focusing your time on that for a chunk of time, I think is a good thing, because you do have to switch your mindset and kind of switch the I don't know, creative versus the nerdy side of your brain, whatever you're going after. So just things to think about. But we've found that kind of worked best for us. And as we've, again, just been talking with a lot of people, we've seen that that's kind of the advice that most people have clinged up to and said was very helpful. Like, oh yeah, if I just focus on this all day, then it starts to, again, I start to see some of those patterns. It starts to make some more connections in my head, and then I can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I guess that was the next question that I pulled, was just our process. And people were asking, is it better to do everything in one day, or is it better to like pick a piece of the business and then focus on it all day?
Yeah, sorry, it kind of bled into that question.
That's fine. I think we see this, I'm not saying from opposite sides. I think we're looking at the coin and we're seeing 2 opposite sides of the coin. I think because if you're doing it by yourself, it's slightly different than how we do things. Because I focus solely on the keywords and then hand it off. And then it's like throughout the week, the stuff gets done. But I think if you are doing it by yourself, it is a good habit to do everything all in one day. That's sometimes a difficult task. So if you're new and you're just getting started, I would suggest breaking it up. Do one thing each day so that you can kind of grasp it and lock it in. Because if keywords are something that's taking a long time, it's going to be extremely stressful if you're trying to do that and then rush to do the art. And then it's like, you're going to start feeling like you're lagging behind and not accomplishing anything. But if you go, okay, today I'm focusing on the keywords, tomorrow I'm focusing on the art, just so you can go, okay, I need to speed up my process. The more I do this, I know speed will come and I'll be able to do this in an hour. Nathaniel has a lot of those, how to make listings in 10 minutes, just because we want to help people speed this process up. I think a lot of people get stuck with, I need this to be perfect, where POD is just like, get it to market and test it. And then if you feel like you missed something, just do another listing, targeting that same place, using a lot of those same keywords, change the art a little bit. Like that's how you make a ton of variations. I don't know if we've made that clear. I feel like we attempted to, but just this is why I love POD, because you can create a bad listing. And then if you go, hey, this is not working, you just make another listing, but a little bit better. Whatever you thought was bad about that first one, fix it, on the second one. I'm doing a series with my mother right now on KDP, and it came from her not having a hard time with just like operating the computer to getting an account and then like being able to actually get a book up, which she was like stressing out about. And then when she got a book up, then it was like she made 20 books almost the next day. It was like each thing I think is such a huge hurdle that you have to learn it. So if your process, you understand all the parts, yes, do it all in one day. I do think, I agree with Nathaniel 100%. I think that is the best way to do it, especially if you're doing it by yourself. But if there's any part of this that you are having a problem with, just focus on it all day. And again, set a goal for yourself to go, hey, I'm really struggling with the art. I'm going to watch, Nathaniel has like 7+ hours over on YouTube that are free using Spark. I'm going to watch Nathaniel's video, then I'm going to try to apply and just get one creation or one design done. That's my goal for today. Tomorrow I'm going to try it again, but I want to get like 5 designs and I want to make different variations so I can make 10, 15, 20 designs in one day. So it's not a stress. Like okay, I know when I go to make the design, I know what I'm doing. There is that problem solving. I think in that beginning stages when you're problem solving, set aside days and set aside goals for you to reach that. Those videos, I'll start releasing them out Wednesday of me and my mom. I think if you're struggling and just getting started, I think that is a really good series for you to watch because you can just see somebody go from really brand new and just how I'm attempting to teach my mom. Why I said like pick those small wins is from helping my mom and then going and talking to people that I look up to that are teaching, that travel all over the place and teach her in their 80s. And then I ask them like, hey, I'm having this problem. What would you suggest, or how should I get this message across? Or how, when I'm helping people, they really seem to struggle here, and then having those conversations. It was on Saturday. I haven't talked to you since Friday, but that's a new revelation to me. And I just want to go, that's what I want this time to be, is like, hey, I'm learning a lot of things. I want to be able to get what I'm learning out to the people instantly instead of like having it lag way behind. And then people are asking me like, oh, you said this. And I was like, 8 months ago, but the things have changed. Like we have to be evolving in this space. Like POD is always changing. Amazon's always changing. The platforms we work with are always changing. I want this space to be, hey, this is the cutting edge. This is what's going on. This is how collectively we're all learning. If I go and test something and say, hey, this is what I'm testing and this is how I'm finding it out, and then I can say, hey, is anybody else testing XYZ? What are your results? Let's compare and ask questions. Because I think that's what I loved about working with Nathaniel in the beginning. He had a very skewed perception, and I had a very skewed perception of our backgrounds, and us coming together and just asking a lot of questions and having those conversations. That's when all like the light bulbs were going off. Like, oh, that's so obvious. Why wouldn't we start with a customer? Because this is so much easier. Why wouldn't we design all the different colors and all the different variations? Because who knows, a customer might actually want that. I like black. I like white. I like solid colors. I would never make a purple with or a yellow shirt with a purple design. That would never be something that I do, but it worked, and it works very well. And it was just like, oh, from testing and trying, and we want to bring that information to you guys.
Yeah. Side note about the videos with mom. I know we've been driving people to those on Facebook. Can we possibly release those on YouTube so they're just a little bit easier to find and send people to?
Yes,
Maybe make
and I
a
will
playlist
make
over there.
Playlist, yeah. I think
Perfect.
we are trying to. I apologize. I'll take full blame for that. I've been doing videos all over the place, and people will be like, "I think I've heard you say this at one time."
Yeah,
An
it's
hour-long
just not
video, and I'm like,
organized.
good luck trying to find that. I have no idea what to tell you. So now I'm trying to take all of our content and move it over to YouTube in a way that people can find it. And then at least if they ask me a question, I can direct them to that video, where it's not a 2-hour-long video. It's just like, here's a 5-minute, 2-minute clip to give you the information that you need.
Yeah, so by Wednesday, we'll try to have a couple of those up for you guys. And I don't know if that's an ongoing series we'll do or whatever, but
It kind of is up to Mom. She might not be coming back. She might be going to California due to Auntie being sick.
But we do have content being pushed over on YouTube. And it's not just like cut up videos of what we're doing here on Monday. I am actually putting time in to make content just for YouTube. We're trying to grow that over there. And so if you guys are here watching us on Facebook and you want more stuff from us throughout the week, there is stuff on YouTube. So we can post a link on that and we'll talk about it more. But it's just Wingman University on YouTube if you're looking for it. Sorry, that was our little side note and a plug for YouTube stuff. But we did have a few more questions in this one. Again, talking specifically to people just getting started. But do you have any advice for people who are just starting out, maybe at tier 10, who are ready to jump into the Q4 funness, but don't quite know how to use their account? They've got a lot of products available to them. They see that there's a lot of possibilities, but not exactly sure where to focus their efforts, possibly. So any suggestions you have for that?
Yeah, and this is something, if you've heard us before, this is going to be slightly different. We would say like put the things up, leave them for a while. During Q4, because things are selling very rapidly, I would get extremely aggressive with your account. In the tier 10,
I'll
I
put
think.
a disclaimer on that again to recall what Steven said at the beginning of the show. Like, remember that you have to do what's actually bringing you income. So if you're focused on private label or OARA, any of that stuff, like, we're not saying drop all of that and just be super aggressive with print on demand. But if you have the time to put into it, then being aggressive print on demand is a good thing to do, especially in Q4. Sorry, just
a
wanted to
lot
put
of
that
a
out
lot of
there.
preferences. I think now that we're trying to speak to a larger audience, we have to like just gauge the stuff because we see some people. I have people PMing and say, "Oh,
It's
you
always
said
just
this."
like our old failures going in my back of my head. Like, if I heard that, I'd be like, screw, we're not sending out any more Christmas stuff. Like, we're only focused on printed videos. Like, hold on, young Nate. Like,
Because we
let's
did
not do
that
that.
and it
Yeah,
was
not good.
painful. Yeah, but yes, I would. If I was just starting off and merch is the main focus, you start off with 10 tier 1, sometimes I call it tier 10. Whatever the first tier is that allows you to have 10 listings, you only have 10 listings to make. It's hard to grow an account or even test things with only 10 slots. We have been suggesting to people to partner with either local churches, local events. There's a huge gap in the market between like one-off shirts and then going to a screen printer, because most of the time going to a screen printer, you need 20, 30 minimum, but you have the option to use your merch account to help them. That's one way to tier up. But in this Q4 season, I would be super aggressive with those positions. So we know the next holiday coming up is Halloween, correct? Unless I'm wrong. It's Halloween,
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
I
Yeah.
think so. Right? Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a long day already. Halloween, you have just 2 weeks essentially. I would be turning those Halloween shirts quite a bit. I'd be putting them up, seeing if I could find them, and then if I couldn't find them and you didn't have a target that you're looking for, that's what I'd be trying to learn. Like, I'm going to try to keep putting these shirts up. If I can only put up one a day because I'm limited to that, I'm going to make sure I hit my one a day. If I can only do 10 a day, I'm going to make sure I hit my 10 a day, even if I had to pull old shirts down and put up a whole new set of 10. It's a balance, but the way that Amazon's system is, it kind of works in your favor because you can only upload a percentage of your overall tier. So if you're at tier 1 with 10 listings, you can only, I think, do 1 or 2. Then the next, you can only do 10, and then it opens up as you get bigger. So it's never like you're pulling your whole catalog down and then refreshing it. You're just doing a percentage of it. But I would be very aggressive with that and every day try to hit those uploads with new listings so you can just be refreshing and get in front of those customers. Because after a week or two, if that stuff's not selling, the holiday's over. So you want to then transition over to the next holiday, Thanksgiving. There are some other smaller events in the middle of that or stuff that you might want to go after. I would definitely just be super aggressive with that stuff. And what Nathaniel said a little bit earlier about like the bike riding, that's what I would be trying to do. Find a customer base that you can mix in those holidays with so that way you can distance yourself from a lot of competition and just start doing that. But be very aggressive because now is the time to get those listings, get them selling. If they're selling, leave them. But if they're not selling, switch them in and out because you want to hit Halloween, you want to hit Thanksgiving, you want to hit Christmas, and just make sure you have fresh listings on all that stuff.
It's good advice.
And I guess another caveat is if you're only doing POD and you have a merch account, think about opening a KDP account. And a lot of the designs and keywords that you're doing can be mixed and matched. So if you're doing shirts or tank tops or whatever products, hoodies that you're doing for your merch account, you can take a lot of those designs and do them on journals. There's a lot of different styles of low to no content books that you can go after. And I would put time into KDP because if you're only doing one listing, it's going to be a slow process. But if you're doing with KDP, there are no limits. And then you go, how many of these can I do a day? And then just learning the business while you're earning money. And you don't have to switch them out in KDP. So if you make a design a day, and you go through this 3-month period, you should have 100 plus listings pretty easily on KDP. Whereas merch, if you are stuck on 10, you only have 10. You won't be able to keep those listings growing.
Yeah. Kind of along with that, thinking about now that we're in Q4, the type of products that we should be making, the type of listings that we should be making. I think we know T-shirts sell the best, but are there other products that you would suggest people listing their designs on? Again, knowing that some of people might just be starting out and only have 10 or 100 or 500 or whatever, like what type of products would you suggest in Q4?
Yeah, I know we've talked a lot of KDP and merch, but we want these calls to be about POD and the POD space. And inside that POD space, there are thousands of products. So it's more gearing towards like what products are being sold more in Q4. If you have an Etsy account, if you have other accounts that allow you to have other products, start looking at your customers and going, hey, what do they mostly buy in these Q4 seasons? Coffee mugs are super popular, especially coffee mugs geared towards Q4 season things or gifts. Like those are super popular. So I would say mugs or hoodies or looking at your customers and just better understanding them and seeing, hey, what do my customers purchase more in these colder seasons that I can make a POD product against? There's countless products and every niche is slightly different, but doing the research is a good way to just understand those customers and their buying habits in that season. And that's what I'd be trying to put a lot more of my effort into. So I don't want to blow up our current niches, but racing, cars, that was something that we're big into. We're still big into it, but we're not building a brand around that. But I would take that and go, okay, what do car customers buy a lot in the winter? Oh, maybe the koozies, those like beer cup things. Like I can put funny sayings on those. Those seem to be really good gift products. I'm going to lean into that. So I'm going to take my designs and my sayings and then put it more on those products. You just have to understand your audience and understand the season and then pair those together. You can do a lot of that on Amazon pretty easily with just researching whatever your seed keyword is for those customers and then
Add
Christmas,
that
Q4,
product.
Halloween, then you
Yeah,
can see, oh, they're buying these types of products. Amazon is letting me know these are the types of products that I should be going after.
yeah, that's good. I think for us, Christmas last year, we started seeing a lot more long sleeve stuff selling. Speaking specifically about merch by Amazon. So again, if you're in that tier 10, maybe trying a few different products and not just sticking with t-shirts, but maybe some of those heavier apparel options that you now have available to you is a good thing to do. But to kind of throw a wrench in that and give an update about merch by Amazon, we can now sell through .com to over 100 different countries. And there's nothing we have to do on our end. That's just the back end of Amazon now is shipping to all of these different countries. So the Philippines, Italy, Jamaica, all these different countries that we weren't able to sell to before, even Canada and Mexico, they are now shipping to, which means that those customers are now going to be seeing our listing. So 100 more countries that our customers are going to, or we have new customers now, which is super exciting. So to throw a little bit of a wrench in there, just thinking about the different seasons and different areas, it's not to say that like you won't have any success if you're only selling the heavy apparel, because in other parts of the world it's going to be warmer and all of that. So it might still be worth trying to put up tank tops and v-necks and all these things now that we have these new customers to sell to. So that's definitely something we're starting to test out and just try to figure out how we can make that work for us the best we can. But it's something good to know, especially if merch by Amazon is your main focus. Know that now you have a much wider audience. So making designs for other parts of the world and maybe targeting different customer bases and cultures and things is something cool that we can do. So something to try out
Yeah, I
if you
almost feel like
guys
it's
are
a,
looking
a
for that.
gold rush anytime like new markets open up. Like there's a whole new audience, there's a whole new space to kind of go after. You can look at all those countries and then, I mean, you can make some very educated guess, but you can even go into Google and just see who's buying more t-shirts and then focus in on those countries and then gear your listings to those customers, because even though it might be showing up on .com, customers from other countries will be able to see it and then relate more to that and then be more likely to purchase yours. And I don't see a lot of competition doing that, especially when Germany and stuff opened up. There wasn't a lot of competition that rushed over there. There's a lot of empty land that can be claimed for even like something very popular like cats. If you gear that towards a country that's just coming up and put like cats and that country in, mixing that stuff together, especially going into Q4, you can really start distancing yourself from the competition and going into those smaller sub niches and having a lot of success with that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun going after Germany when it first opened up. So now there's 100 more countries that you guys get to experiment with. If you're looking for that list of countries, it is in the FAQ of Merch by Amazon, and it's in the shipping questions. They show all the new countries that they ship to now, so you can see a list of those and use those as new markets to go after. So I think that's all the updates we had for this week.
We do have some really good feedback, and people are liking the setting small goals, productivity goals. Melody was saying, which I like that terminology. I was saying small wins, but I think productivity goals instead of like financial goals or results-based goals, like what you can control, set goals on that so that you can just work towards something and complete it instead of going, oh, I'm going to do this and get my first sale, or I'm going to get my first 100 sales, or I'm going to make $100, and then burning out because you're just doing a whole bunch of things and not really being able to see what's working or not working, and then you start spending a lot of time and energy and effort, what we did in the beginning. So I'm not saying it's a pitfall that you go through in the learning process, but I think because it was me and Nathaniel, we could set goals for ourselves and say, okay, this week we're going to try to do this and at least accomplish this in the amount of work that we're going to put forward, and then the results will come, or at least we can look and see what worked and what didn't work. Like I think analyzing your business, and that's why I think I'm getting a lot of questions on tracking and how do I find. I think because I've said it a lot and I don't have like a video to point people to. Again, I apologize. If you want to go back and search the last year and a half that we've done this, I know I've talked about this. I know we've done hours on that. I just can't find all that information. So that's what I'm trying to like move all that stuff over to YouTube. So I will be doing a video on testing and tracking and split testing, which is different to me than testing, and explaining all of this because I expounded on a lot of that, and I think I confused more people, and that's not what I was trying to do. I was trying to like give you steps to go through this process, and then just understanding like, hey, if you can't find your product, it's probably a keyword problem. If you can find it but it's not converting, then it's an art problem, and just giving a lot of people, it was just too much information, and I apologize. But I would say setting goals should be your main takeaway from tonight. Do stuff that you have control over, set goals for that, and just keep that process moving. We are here. If you have any questions or problems, feel free to ask. And I think just helping more people makes me understand like, okay, we need to be able to give these people something that they can achieve, and then that will help them continue on. Because I think when we had that first sale, that's what really blew this thing up. Like if you weren't having success, I don't think I would ever have helped you. But then when you overnight had a lot of sales, I was like, okay, very interesting. Let's try to press in on this and understand like what's going on and how we can actually scale that part of the business.
Thanks for watching that video, guys. If you liked it, please leave us a like, or you can ask your question in the comments below. We are still doing those free coaching calls for the rest of this month, so if you'd like to sign up, that link is also in the description.